Hi everyone, David Millington here. I'm happy to be here today to show you two new Delphi IDE plugins, Parnassus Bookmarks and Parnassus Navigator. So here at Parnassus, we're making a growing family of plugins. There are two that are currently available and more are coming. And the key thing about these is that they're built by Delphi developers for Delphi developers. I personally have used Delphi since it was Turbo Pascal, and I'm well aware of what the IDE doesn't do and how it functions. And I've found that there are things that I wish the IDE did, or features that it had, or features that it currently has that I wish had been implemented differently. And those are the things that these plugins address. So Bookmarks is a plugin that replaces functionality that's already built into the IDE, but does it better. And Navigator is a plugin that adds something completely new. But first, let's have a look at Bookmarks. Delphi has bookmark functionality built in, but it's not particularly polished. One of the most obvious issues is that there's only 10 possible markers. Now you might not want 1,000, but more than 10 could be useful. But one of the biggest problems is that there's no sign which of those markers you've already used, which you've already set. So it's very easy to accidentally overwrite one when you want to create a new bookmark. You have to remember which number is free. Is bookmark 4 free? Is bookmark 8 free? And then set that and hope that you didn't overwrite something that you actually wanted. And it would be really nice to be able to see a list of the bookmarks, and more than that, to see their context, to see useful information about where they are and what it is that they're marking. So with that in mind, let's have a look at Parnassus Bookmarks. To create a bookmark, just press Ctrl+B. A free number is automatically assigned. Notice that when you create or remove a bookmark, there's a small animation, seen here when you create one, and when you remove it, again by pressing Ctrl+B on a number where a bookmark already exists. That can be turned off, of course, but it's a nice visual indicator. Bookmarks comes with a dockable window, which you can see here on the right-hand side of the screen. It lists all bookmarks in the current file, or all bookmarks in all open files in the IDE. You can see here that I have two bookmarks that are in another open file. It shows useful information about where each bookmark is located. You can see that this one is in a class declaration. Of course, you can double-click to navigate to a bookmark, or you can simply press the shortcut key, Ctrl+2, for example, to go to bookmark number 2. Bookmarks is a complete superset of the IDE's inbuilt bookmarks functionality, so all keyboard shortcuts still work. The bookmarks list gives you a lot of extra functionality. For example, you can rename a bookmark, and you can see whatever text you enter appear in the list, or you can delete a bookmark or delete all bookmarks. You can have any number of bookmarks. There are 3 here, but you could have 100 if you want. But one of the most useful parts of bookmarks is that it prevents you accidentally overwriting an existing bookmark. If you want to set bookmark number 3, for example, you would normally press Ctrl+Shift+3. But because bookmark 3 is already set, when you press that, you'll get a small warning showing you that it already exists. You can see a blue indicator appear over bookmark 3 when I press Ctrl+Shift+3. If the existing bookmark is off-screen, then the warning will appear at the top or the bottom of the editor, indicating the direction where the bookmark is located. And of course, if you actually do want to set or move an existing bookmark, you can just double tap. So you press once to get the warning, double tap and the bookmark is moved. Most bookmark functions can be accessed via the keyboard, using keyboard shortcuts. Of course, creating or deleting a bookmark as well as navigating to a bookmark. But there are also things like cycling through all bookmarks in a file via Ctrl+Alt+Left or right arrow. So far so good. The main thing to remember is pretty easy, just Ctrl+B for a new bookmark. And of course you can see the useful information over here. But Parnassus Bookmarks also introduces a second type of bookmark which many users find very useful, and that is a temporary caret bookmark. Normal bookmarks are persistent. They stay when you close and you reopen the IDE. Temporary caret bookmarks are meant just for quick navigation. You drop one by pressing Ctrl+Shift+B. And you can see there's a little indicator under the cursor and also a different indicator in the gutter. Go somewhere else, and you can immediately jump back to where you were just by pressing Escape. That navigates back and also deletes the temporary bookmark. You can have as many of these as you want. And when you press Escape, you'll step back in time. So let me set one here, and maybe one here, and one here. And I've moved the cursor here. So you can see when I press Escape, the cursor moves back to where the last caret is. Press Escape again to go back in time. Press Escape again to go back in time. One of the most useful things about caret bookmarks is that you can use them to repeatedly toggle between two different locations, even across different files. Let's look at the caret tab of the bookmarks list, and then place a new caret bookmark. You can see one's appeared here. If you then go to any other location, including a different file, then when you press Escape, you will navigate back and the old caret bookmark will be deleted, like so. However, if you place a caret bookmark and then from the other location press Shift Escape, it will drop a new caret bookmark at the current location before jumping back. You can see that the caret bookmark here has changed. And that means you can repeatedly press Shift Escape to drop a caret and navigate and toggle between two locations, like so. Finally, it's worth pointing out that like all Parnassus plugins, Bookmarks is very customizable. It has plenty of settings and you can make it behave however you want. I won't go into these now, but feel free to have a look if you install it. So, that's Parnassus Bookmarks. As a quick summary, it's always Ctrl+B to set or to remove a bookmark. Parnassus Bookmarks is a superset of the inbuilt bookmark functionality, so you can still use the same existing old keyboard shortcuts as well if you want to. Bookmarks gives you any number of bookmarks. It helps prevent you accidentally overwriting an existing bookmark. It has the docked list that shows all bookmarks in the current or all open files, and that list shows context-aware information about where each bookmark is located. It has a modern UE and the symbols are readable, and it has caret bookmarks, temporary bookmarks, which let you jump back in time or toggle between two locations. And best of all, Bookmarks is free. You can download and install it today. Let's look at the second plugin, Parnassus Navigator. One problem that I commonly encounter in Delphi is that I spend a lot of time finding particular places in code, finding particular methods. One really common one is to find the users clause. I type some code, I know I'm going to have to put a new unit in the users clause. How do I get there? Well, the existing navigation just isn't good enough. The structure view is not particularly useful for that kind of thing. I often end up just using Ctrl+F to find, so I'll press Ctrl+F, type users, press F3, F3, F3 to cycle through the comments, F3 again to circle to the top, F3 again to finally get to the implementation users clause. And that just isn't good enough. It takes a long time, and you have to concentrate and look at each search result. If you happen to have Castalia, it has Visual Studio's style drop-down combo boxes. But they don't always show exactly what you want, and how could they? They don't know what you're interested in. And they're mouse-driven, not keyboard-driven. The end result is there is simply no good way in Delphi to navigate quickly around a unit. If you know where you want to go, a particular method by name, a particular type, a particular part of the unit, a unit section like a type clause or the users clause, there's no quick, easy, keyboard-driven, immediate way to get there. And that's what I wanted. I wanted something keyboard-based, fast, that didn't interrupt my coding flow, something that showed what I wanted, and finally something that gave me a good overview of the whole code. When you install Navigator, the first thing you'll notice is the new minimap on the right-hand side of the editor. This shows a miniature version of the entire unit, and the currently visible portion of the code is highlighted in blue. You can click anywhere to navigate, or click and drag to use it just like a scroll bar. You can also mouse over to get a preview hint of the code at that particular spot. The minimap was actually a kind of bonus feature for Navigator, but many people like it so much they use Navigator just for this. But the main part of Navigator is the Go To window. Just press Ctrl+G, G for Go, and this window pops up. This window lists everything useful and important in the current unit. It lists all the unit sections, the interface and users and type and implementation. It lists all the types that are defined, all the classes, all the records, all the interfaces, all the sets, everything. It lists all the methods, all the constructors and destructors. It lists all the fields, all the variables, all the constants, all the properties, and you can use it by typing. So I happen to know there's a line number property that I want to go to. So if I just start typing line num, I can see the first matching item is the property that I'm interested in. Press enter, and I go there. A couple more examples. If I want to go to the users clause, I just press Ctrl+G, type users, and you can see it shows both users clauses in the unit. You can press the up and down arrow keys to move among the possible options. Press enter, and you go. Or, again, press Ctrl+G. Now if I am looking for a particular class function, I start typing class func. You don't have to type complete words, it will match based on whatever you type. And you can see there are several options here that match those keywords. As well as one class function, there are several functions with the word class in their name. But the GoTo window has automatically selected the best match, the class function. And if I press enter, I go. Another example. I happen to know there is a result type field in a couple of the types in this unit, and I want to go to one of those declarations. I can type field, which will filter and show all fields in all types that are declared in this unit. And I can narrow it down further by typing partial words which match the item that I'm looking for. You can see here there are the two fresult type fields that I'm looking for, and I want to go to that one. You might also notice that as you type, the matching results are shown in the minimap, and the highlighted one in the GoTo window is also highlighted in the minimap. And like all Parnassus plugins, it has a lot of settings so you can make it behave exactly how you want to. I won't go through these all now, but you can see there are a large number of ways to configure both the GoTo window and the minimap. And that's Parnassus Navigator. The main part is the GoTo window. It shows everything useful in the current unit. Anything you could possibly want to navigate to is shown. You can configure what it shows, so you can make it show only what you will want to navigate to. It's keyboard-based. Of course, you can open it with the mouse if you want, but to use the GoTo window, your hands never need to leave the keyboard. So it shows you what you want, and it filters as you type. It's fast, fast to open, fast to filter, fast to go. Of course, when I was demonstrating it just now, I typed slowly and I left the window open so you could see it work. But in practice, when you use it, it takes a fraction of a second. You press Ctrl+G, type, and press enter without even thinking. It's much more efficient and easy than other techniques. It doesn't interrupt your coding zen. I like to think it's code navigation done right. And there's the bonus feature, the minimap. It's a modern feature found in most other IDEs, and I'm glad to be able to bring it to Delphi. So those are the two currently available Parnassus plugins. Bookmarks, which is free, Navigator, which is only €40. There's a free trial, so if you just download it, you can install it and see how it works. When you buy it, it comes with a year's support and updates. All the plugins support Delphi XE through XE8 and 10 Seattle, and have partial support for C++ Builder. You can access them at parnassus.co. There are several more plugins in active development right now, and I'm really looking forward to what we might be able to bring to the Delphi community. So if you like them, please spread the word. Thank you for watching. Now let's open it up to any questions.
And Jim McKeith, are you both online with me?
David? Fantastic.
I am. How's it going?
Excellent. Okay, we've got Jim McKeith. He's up in Idaho, and David over in Germany. Great presentation. Question popped up. I fully expected it to pop up. Can you use it with C++ Builder?
Yes, you can. So both of them support C++ Builder, but to different extents. Bookmarks is the best. The only thing that's different between Delphi and C++ Builder is the context that's shown in the bookmark list. In Delphi, that shows the method that a bookmark is in, or the type declaration, or something like that. In C++ Builder, it only shows the file name and line number and the contents of the line. And Navigator it does also work with C++ Builder. The minimap, for example, works perfectly and completely, and even syntax highlights C++ code. But unfortunately, the go-to window only passes Delphi or Pascal code. So the go-to window does not work with C++.
Okay. Then I had a few questions, a few that you answered. So the support is from XE to 10 Seattle, is that correct?
That's right, yes.
Okay. And you mentioned that there's a way you can customize both Navigator and Bookmarks. Is there anything else that developers can do with Bookmarks beyond just using the bookmarks?
Well, Bookmarks has a public API, actually. So you can actually write a Delphi, like an IDE plugin that also communicates with the Bookmarks plugin if it's installed. And so there's a bunch of public interfaces and a demo project for that, which you can download. I think that's in the support page on the Parnassus website. But I've had a few people actually interested in doing that, and so that was added by request from a couple of people.
So I think that's on the screen now, right? I went to the support page and it says here, Parnassus plugins, public API. Excellent.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And
by the way, an API is planned for Navigator as well. I've had a few requests to let other people write plugins that adds, I suppose, annotations on the minimap, especially. That currently doesn't exist, but it is on the roadmap for the future.
Excellent. I love the fact that you were actually using your own code, the code for bookmarks, for the plugins in the demo. I think that's what I was seeing, right?
Yes, that's right.
Excellent. I may have missed this in named. When you name a bookmark, you give it a familiar name over in the bookmark window. Is there a search for searching for those names that you type in, or do you just search by number?
At the moment, there's no search by name. It's meant more as a kind of comment, to sort of, I left this bookmark here because it's important for a reason. You are kind of, I suppose comment is the best way.
Okay.
So at the moment, you just navigate by pressing the keyboard shortcuts, Ctrl+1, Ctrl+5, that kind of thing.
Okay. And you said you can have any number of bookmarks. Is that right? I mean, is there some theoretical limit, like size of integer or something like that? Or
it would be size of integer or running out of memory space, something like that. I think I've tested up to 100 bookmarks.
Okay.
Yeah, and any number.
I may have missed this as well. Are the bookmarks saved between starts of either projects or the IDE?
They are, yes. So normal bookmarks are completely persistent. I mean, you close the project or you close the IDE, and when you reopen, the bookmarks will be there. The difference is that the temporary caret bookmarks are temporary. So if you close the project or you close the IDE, those will go. But normal bookmarks are completely persistent, yes.
There's a question that just came in as well. Do bookmarks and your plugins play nicely with other plugins like GExpert, CNPAC, and so on?
Yes, they do. Sometimes some of the bookmarks, some of the shortcuts clash. So for example, Navigator uses Ctrl+G and GExpert also uses Ctrl+G. But you can configure that. You can change the shortcuts if you want to. And there are no known compatibility problems of any sort at the moment. So yes, as far as I know, they play nicely. Absolutely.
We saw that in the settings page where you could change the key if you like a different key, shortcut key. Okay. When you're doing bookmarks or navigation, does that include finding when you haven't saved a unit yet, you've made changes, or is it only for units or source code files that have been saved?
No, it works on the current state in the editor.
Okay.
So as long as you have a file in the editor, whether it's saved or not, then you should be able to navigate anywhere within that. And the same for bookmarks. And
then for a Navigator, I saw that you talked about that you can navigate to the sections of a unit. Does that include sections of the main program file as well?
By main program file, would that be the DPR file or something similar?
File. I guess it's got a user statement. It's got a program statement. I mean, it doesn't have an initialization or implementation or whatever. So I guess you could show the user statement, right, of the main source file, the program file, the DPR file.
You could, yes. You should navigate in any sort of any valid Pascal file, whether that's a DPR file or a PAS file. Okay. I haven't actually specifically tested the program keyword, but certainly all the other sections of a DPR should work, certainly.
And as well as in the unit, you had interface implementation, initialization, finalization. I guess when you say unit sections, those are the main. Am I forgetting a unit section? Probably not. Maybe I am.
Yeah, it shows all those things. The users clause as well, and the type and const and var clauses that exist in the interface or implementation. All those sort of count as unit sections, sort of like top level things that you might want to jump to.
Yep. If I want to look for, I know you showed things like functions and types. I guess an interface type. It doesn't really matter whether it's an interface type, a field.
No, it shows everything. It really doesn't matter what the type is. It will pull up everything.
Excellent. So I know that just as in the world of components, a few people are component developers. They build their property editors and component editors. Most people are component users or consumers. I'm not sure the right term. I think the same thing. Probably even a lesser subset of people may be plugin developers. So, do you have any advice or words of wisdom about building IDE plugins?
That's an interesting question. I think you're right. I think the number of people writing plugins is much smaller, but the comparison to writing controls is quite a good one. So it's basically just another sort of thing you have to learn. I mean, the mindset of writing components is very different to writing code that uses them, and it's the same for plugins. But yeah, once you get that first initial learning curve over, it's really quite simple. There are a vast number of interfaces in the IDE that help with that kind of thing. And I've noticed actually that the documentation has improved quite a lot in the past couple of releases. So there are plenty of blogs and stuff out there that talk about writing plugins, but in the Delphi help itself, actually, I think since XE6 or XE7, there's quite a bit of material as well. So you can simply go there and start reading there. Like there are certainly an example simple plugin, something that adds something to the help menu, for example, right there in the help. And once you've done that, you sort of have a basic idea of how it works, how to access the internal parts of the IDE that you want. And going on from that is simply a matter of looking for the interfaces and reading blogs and that kind of thing. It's all very, very doable.
Yeah, the other thing I mentioned to when people ask me about they want to build components and editors and plugins and so on is I always give them the cautionary tale that the IDE, there's no sandbox in the world of component editors, property editors, IDE plugins, and so on. So you could potentially do something that would be unhelpful for the IDE.
Yes, you absolutely could. You do have to be very careful when you write a plugin. A memory leak in a plugin, for example, would effectively be a memory leak in the IDE. Or a rogue pointer would bring down the entire IDE potentially. But in a certain sense, that's not too much to worry about. I mean, hopefully you wouldn't have that kind of thing in your code anyway, whether there's a plugin or not. So,
yeah. Which brings up a question I always think about it, and I ask certain people, how do you debug your IDE? Do you start the IDE debugging the IDE with your plugin in it? Is that what you do?
Yes. Basically, plugins are registered. They're in the registry of the IDE, so the IDE loads them. But when you have the project, the DLL or the BPL, you simply run it with the IDE as a host, and so you end up debugging Delphi under Delphi.
Yep. And it's just a note for everybody out there as well, is if you're trying to track down a problem with a component editor, property editor, and a plugin or other things, when I run into something, I'm always asked by the development team to debug the IDE with the IDE to at least get to a point where there's stack trace for a crash and so on. So it always helps them that way. I should ask this question because you have 10 Seattle support. Did you have to do anything to your plugins because of the large memory IDE that we switched to in 10 Seattle? And we gave developers and MVPs and our tech partners sort of guidance about making sure that they use certain types because no assumption that it's only a 2 gig IDE working space for property editors, component editors, and plugins. Did you have to do anything special in your existing code for 10 Seattle?
Actually, no, I didn't. My code didn't really use any of the kind of things that might be at risk in that kind of situation. So yeah, there was no special work to support the large memory model at all.
Excellent. And again, that's under the covers for everybody. You don't, if you're just building your apps, you can build 32 and 64-bit Windows apps and multi-device apps. The IDE just is using, if you have it, more than 2 gigabytes now. So you can have very, very large projects. And also it took care of a whole bunch of strange crashes that were happening over time as people were using the IDE in the past. So it's safe to go in the water with large projects with 10 Seattle. And we've been getting good feedback from everybody that way. You may have to go out and get your third-party components, and if you're using any plugins or components with component editors, make sure those are 10 Seattle compatible as well. There was a previous question about compatibilities or incompatibilities with other plugins, so I just wanted to give you a chance again there was some question about what about CNPAC, I think?
Yes, that's right. Well, both Bookmarks and Navigator are compatible with all other plugins. CNPAC has historically been a little bit tricky to be compatible with. And in fact, up until the most recent version of CNPAC, you would often have to get the installation order of the plugins right, you would have to install Bookmarks first and then CInpack later. And I believe that's now fixed. But the problem, of course, was to do with some of the plugins hook parts of the IDE, and when multiple plugins do that, you need to do it exactly right in order to be friendly to other plugins, and all the Parnassus ones are. But apart from that, yes, all the plugins work fine with CInpack and GExperts and whatever other plugins you might have installed.
And again, people can go and customize through the option settings for each of the plugins, right?
That's right, yes. So, well, Navigator, for example, uses Ctrl+G to go, which I thought was a nice, G to go kind of shortcut. If you use GExperts, which also has a Ctrl+G shortcut, then of course you can change it in Navigator if you want. That lets you use both Navigator and GExperts with different shortcuts for different functionality.
And you mentioned that the plugins work with 10 Seattle, right? Not just for large memory IDE, that's a major new feature in the IDE for 10 Seattle, but is there anything else that the plugins or the IDE does cool stuff with?
Yes. Well, Seattle was, firstly, the large memory in Seattle was quite good. But one other nice thing that changed in Seattle is that, as you may know, when you write plugins, the IDE provides a large number of interfaces giving access to parts of the IDE. And in Seattle, a new one was introduced that helps plugins draw on the code editor. So in older versions of the IDE, in order to draw on the code editor, we had to use some fairly tricky techniques to hook into the IDE. As of Seattle, that's now actually officially supported, which is rather nice.
Excellent. And then there was a question earlier about C++ support, and you said yes, you can use these plugins with Delphi language, C++ projects. Is there anything else that developers should be aware of, whether they're a Delphi developer or a C++ developer?
Well, as far as C++ goes, I've actually used C++ Builder for many years, and I know it's very important to support it as well. Both Bookmarks and Navigator use a Delphi syntax parser. I actually use Delphi AST, which is an open source project that Roman Yankovsky runs. He's the guy behind FixInsight. And Bookmarks uses it to show the context information for bookmarks, to show that a bookmark is in a particular method, for example. And in C++ Builder, Bookmarks works completely fine, as much as it does in Delphi. But the context information is limited only to the file name and number and the context of the contents of the line. In Navigator, it's a bit more tricky. The minimap again works completely fine in C++ Builder. It even has C++ syntax highlighting. But the go-to window again uses the Delphi syntax parser, and so of course that doesn't work to navigate within C++ code. But apart from that, apart from those two caveats, the context of a bookmark and the contents of the go-to window, both plugins absolutely support all the same versions of C++ Builder as they do Delphi.
And there's a question here. Does the go-to feature work across the current project, current group of projects, library, or browse path?
That's a good question. Right now it only works for the current unit. So it will show you all the contents of the current tab in the IDE. And I'm considering how or in what ways to expand it to the whole project or the whole project group, and that includes files that are in the paths. Right now it doesn't do that, but I can tell you that is certainly on the roadmap as something that might come in future.
Okay, let's see. There's, as far as I know, Castalia has similar search feature, but it had to index all the units. Can Navigator do this without caching units? But again, it ties back to you're doing the current unit, right?
That's right, yes, and it is just the current unit currently, which is what I found was the main thing that I was trying to navigate around. I mean, I built Navigator because it was a problem that I encountered that I wanted to solve. I always wanted to go to the users clause, for example, and the vast majority of the navigation that I was doing was within the one unit. If and when it expands to the whole project, it may have to do some form of caching, but if it does, it would absolutely be unnoticeable. I think that when a product does something like that, you shouldn't have to be aware that it does it.
And as far as how much of in the Navigator, when you're doing searching, is it syntax aware, or is it just looking at strings and matching strings?
No, it's very syntax aware. So it uses the Delphi parser, Delphi AST that I mentioned earlier. So when it lists that something is a procedure, for example, it's aware that it is actually a procedure or function, and that it has a function type. You can use that as well to filter by the result type of a function if you want to. If you type function and then the type again, it will match those things. One particularly interesting thing is that it's aware of the property getters and setters, like the items, the fields, or the methods that back a property. So you can type in, for example, property foo getter, and it will filter and actually show you the field or method that is the read or the getter property. Sorry, the read or the getter method or field for that property. And it does that because it is completely syntax aware of the entire unit.
Okay, there's a question there. Are the bookmark icons customizable?
At the moment, no. They're set to red with white text, which is fairly carefully chosen to try and be more readable than the IDE's default bookmarks have a kind of yellow color with dark text, and that can be quite hard to read. But of course, I'm always open to feature suggestions. If you particularly want different colored bookmark icons or something like that, drop me a mail on the contact form on the website and let me know.
Excellent. There was a question here about for Navigator. You say 1 year support and updates. Does that include, so updates including when you add features or fix bugs or whatever? What if we release, since it's an IDE plugin, we release new IDEs?
Yeah, new IDEs are definitely supported in the updates. So yes, when you buy it and you get a year's support and updates, that of course means all the new features and all the bug fixes in that year. But again, as well, all the new IDEs that you guys release in that year, and that I add support for those. And people automatically get a version of Navigator that works for that IDE as well, yes.
Here's a question. Was the minimap feature inspired by the Sublime editor? Question mark?
Actually, no. Minimaps are in quite a large number of editors, although I think Sublime Text was the one that made it famous. Sublime Text Minimap actually works very slightly differently, and I'm thinking of including an option for a second mode to make Navigator's Minimap work just like Sublime's. But the real reason for it is that I was starting to notice in a whole bunch of other editors that many of them had them, and I thought it would be really useful to be able to have the same thing in Delphi.
Okay, I was typing terse answers there. Let's see. Okay. Is there an academic price, a student price, or whatever versus a professional price for Navigator?
Yes. Although in this case the price is zero. I give it away for free to students. If you're a student, you can drop me an email via the contact form, and you include a copy of your student ID or something, and I'll just give you a license. It's actually free for anyone basically who can't afford it. I figure there's no reason to try and charge it and effectively prevent someone using something. So yeah, for students and for others, it's free.
Okay, here's another question. Eric's saying, I just downloaded Navigator and it said it was version 1.3.1, yet the website says the current version is 1.4.1.
Interesting. I may have a typo on the website. The current Bookmarks version is 1.4.1, and the current Navigator version is 1.3.1.
Okay.
I'll go and check that on the website in a few minutes.
Okay, so let me type this in again. Bookmarks is
Bookmarks
one.
is version 1.4.1.
Okay.
And Navigator is 1.3.1. And I suspect from the question I must have a typo on the website.
And then you have trial as well, right? What's the trial? I mean, let's see. I should back up. You mentioned Bookmarks is free. It's on the screen there. And Navigator is their trial?
There is, yes. So you can just download and install it, and it works in trial mode. When you buy it, you just get a license key, and you can enter that into the trial version, and it starts working fully straight away.
Yeah, Eric's saying the typo's in the comments section on the Navigator page of the website, if you're looking for it.
All right. Thanks for that, Eric. I'll have a look.
Okay. And again, the free, or the trial, is there anything special about the trial? It's limited or something? Is there something it doesn't do, or?
Well, it is limited. It's fully functional, but of course you can't make a trial completely fully functional. As time goes past, it will pop up a few reminders telling you that it's in trial mode, and after a few hours of use, the minimap, for example, will have a few rectangular sections blocked out with text saying that it's in trial mode. It's not very much, just enough to remind you that it is a trial mode, and that increases as time goes past.
Okay.
It tries to be a fairly nice mix between letting you see everything and reminding you that it's a trial version of the product.
Let's see. There's a question. Can you change the escape key for the caret bookmark? So I'm going to go into the bookmarks documentation. First, I should say that the bookmarks, if I could type properly, is free. So you could download it, install it. Well, let's go into the bookmarks documentation online. Let's see, where am I here? Okay, so okay, so default settings. I don't see. I've got the book. I'm in the here. Let me make sure that the screen is on. Sorry about that. I was putting up the URL. So I went into the Parnassus bookmark documentation for default settings, and this is a bitmap here. There's two, but there's no hot link for the caret bookmark settings. But I just have to believe that if we could click on caret bookmarks in the settings, we'd see the ability to change the keys there as well. So the best thing, let's see, you can turn animations on and off. I don't see that here, but just knowing all the settings that there are for both Navigator and bookmarks, and also because of other IDE plugins that you might have installed, that this caret page would also have allow you to set your choice of caret settings. And then their second question about versions supported. So let me go back here, and I believe it starts with exe, but let me just make sure. Exe including all the way up to Seattle. So that's oh yeah, so here it is. For bookmarks, it supports Delphi and C Builder, exe to exe8, and Seattle. Okay, and then for Navigator, let's go and see where he lists. I think it's this. My memory is when the question was asked. Okay, so here for Navigator, there is a trial. You can download the Navigator as well, and you can use it as a plugin. So again, it's exe to exe8 and Seattle, and 10 Seattle. So here, I'll type that in. Seattle. So the bookmarks is free. The Navigator has a trial. Just download it. What'll happen is it'll just nag you to purchase it, but it's fully functioned a plugin. So you can download the Navigator as well and check it out. Sorry, it wasn't 2007, but it's EXE to EXE8 and Seattle. If you have other questions, feel free to put them in. I should mention in Navigator, while it supports Delphi and C++ Builder, it does more with Delphi on the Navigator side. He's using the Delphi AST parser by Roman Yankovsky. So that way it's very Delphi syntax aware as far as the Navigator is concerned. You can still search for strings, but the Navigator also will do more smart searching based on if you're in the Delphi language. It's syntax aware because of the Delphi AST parser that's being used under the cover. So, and again, as far as working with plugins, David has done the work to make sure either there's those options or that he plays nicely with CNPack and other GExperts and other plugins. So, if you find that there's something in another plugin you have that there is an issue with, just contact them directly. There's under About, there's a contact page that you can fill out, and that will go to the folks at Parnassus. So you can always get back there as well. So David, any last words for everyone out there? You mentioned go to the website. The Bookmarks is free. The Navigator you can purchase. Anything else that you want to add?
I think that about covers it. Yeah, Bookmarks you can install today, and Navigator as well you can install it. It works in trial mode. Apart from that, I'd like to thank everyone for attending, for watching. Let's see. Oh, we got in the question. I just bought Navigator. Great tool, Walking says. So there you go. That's great. Thank you very much.